You pulled up to the station this Memorial Day weekend and paid $4.55 for a single gallon of gas. That is the highest price you've seen in years. This chart shows exactly how sharp that climb has been. In January, the national average was $2.93. In under 90 days, that number spiked by 50%. It's natural to assume this has something to do with local refinery maintenance or a drop in American oil production. But domestic supply lines are currently stable. The actual cause started on February 28th, when the United States and Israel launched a coordinated series of military strikes against Iran. Almost immediately, the conflict severed a vital trade route on the other side of the planet, translating a geopolitical standoff into the soaring cost of your daily commute. To understand how a foreign conflict drains your wallet, we have to look at the Persian Gulf. This single region produces roughly 1/3 of the world's seaborne oil. This map illustrates a massive geographical vulnerability. All the oil pumped by major producers like Saudi Arabia and the UAE has to exit through this single narrow waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. At its tightest point between Iran and Oman, the gap is just 22 miles wide. Every single day, 20 million barrels of crude try to squeeze through this channel. That accounts for roughly 20% of all the oil consumed globally, forced into a space smaller than the distance from New York City to Newark. When a fifth of the world's energy relies on a single bottleneck, a localized military threat creates an instantaneous blockade on the global economy. On February 28th, Allied forces targeted locations exactly like this one to dismantle Iranian military infrastructure and halt their nuclear development program.
In response, Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced they were shutting down the Strait of Hormuz to any commercial vessel with ties to the US or Israel. The threat alone was enough to break the system. Because maritime insurance companies refuse to cover tankers operating in an active strike zone, ships carrying millions of barrels of crude are forced to just sit anchored, going nowhere. This visualization tracks the resulting market panic. Pre-war crude was sitting at $70 a barrel. When the embargo hit, commodities markets drove that price up to a peak of $118. Because nearly every truck, train, and cargo plane in America runs on fuel, that elevated cost of crude starts a chain reaction. Your weekly grocery store run, the new electronics you buy, and essential home building materials all suddenly cost much more. This means that a disruption in a foreign waterway eventually reaches the price tag of nearly every physical product you buy at home. Right now, a diplomatic framework to reopen the strait is sitting on the negotiating table, pushed heavily by the current US administration. The core terms offer a 60-day ceasefire and the lifting of heavy oil sanctions against Iran. In exchange, Iran agrees to demine the strait and allow tanker traffic to resume within 30 days. But the agreement requires Iran to surrender its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, a term Tehran's foreign ministry has publicly rejected. Meanwhile, Allied leaders are demanding the complete dismantlement of Iranian nuclear sites before any sanctions are lifted. The volatility in the global oil market is now tracking the hour-by-hour progress of these specific contested talks. If the deal holds and the waterway reopens within the month, crude prices should pull back. By the end of summer, the national average for gas would likely normalize toward $3.50 a gallon. If the talks stall out, we enter a grinding stalemate. Oil could stay near $100 a barrel, keeping your gas near $5, and continuing the economic pressure through the end of 2026. But if the negotiations collapse and military strikes resume, the closure of the strait could become permanent. Analysts at Goldman Sachs have already warned of a possible spike to $7 gas nationally. The price of your fuel and your groceries is currently being influenced by the fate of this 22-mile waterway 7,000 miles away.